to really take that into account. I don't think she had a lot of choice in many of the things that she did. I think it was a dog-eat-dog world and a queen-kill-queen world. And I think she did everything that she had to do to... She walked a middle ground, which we would probably complain about if she was a politician these days. But it was what we needed at the time. That's how she brought about a unified church. That's how she did all the other things we've spoken about today. So... I think
okay, the networks are down, the equipment is ready, and we've tripled their supplies. Mrs. Rackman has written our check and given us the green light. We're good to finally move on that submarine and stop this...
You hold your cards quite close through this. I can't tell where you might go. I think genius. Similar reasons? Pretty much, yeah, not as eloquently as Sarah's going to post. I just think she's a bad bitch. And I quite like that, you know? Well, we now know Elizabeth I is going to vote for genius in the episode, but will it be unanimous? It falls to Mr. Manito to decide.
I think she is genius, but she's also inherently evil.
You calling for some wheels? I'm Johnny on the spot. I'll hook you up.
She's the most genius of the evils.
So, look at the scale.
It's on the way.
We cannot weigh them immediately.
You're furious that you can't end on that, can't you?
You must declare your vote, Philippi.
Oh God, the leeches are literally alright, we'll go for genius.
Oh my God, it's unanimous! Elizabeth I, genius! Well done. Incidentally, when Bloody Mary died and Elizabeth I became queen, it's the only time in history they've ever said the queen is dead, long live the queen. Queen to queen action. Sometimes that happened. Well done, guys. What an absolute thriller of an episode. Thank you very much to all my panellists, Sarah Mills, Robin Morgan, Esther Manito. Thanks for listening to Evil Genius from BBC Radio 4. If you're looking for more, you can listen to all of our past episodes on BBC Sounds. And if you don't, I'll come over, rip your pancreas out of the body and fry it in front of you in my air fryer.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
Busy.
Hey, hør lige her. Nu kan du prøve Mofibo til halv pris i hele 4 måneder. Nyd sommerens bedste lydbøger. Morgen og aften på stranden, i haven, på ferien og til hverdag. Vælg din yndlingsgenre blandt Mofibos 600.000 historier. Skal du lytte med?
Lytter er straks klar til vigtig information. Læs mere på Norwegian Reward.
Genius. Hello and welcome to Evil Genius, the show where we take celebrated figures from history and make you choose evil or genius. It's the PTSD of hero worship. Here we take your heroes and discover that some of them were STDs, metaphorically speaking. Some literally. They were certainly dicks. Take a grubby dive through our archives and you might find yourself not wanting to wear trainers. Do you know why? Because Adi Dassler, the weirdo behind Adidas, released a range of sports shoes called, ready? Mein Kampf. I'm not joking. A range of trainers called My Ideology. It's just so comfy. You're going to love our fascism sweatpants. Oh, silence! Or what about Mr. Kellogg? Yeah, okay, he built $1 billion cereal industry, but my God, did that strange bully of a man love shoving things right up his body. Snap, crackle, oh, what was that, Harvey? Very, very odd, poo-obsessed character. Very strange man. Well, today, it's the man at the centre, arguably patient one, of the statues controversy. The colonialist, Cecil Rhodes. If you've heard anyone going on about whether statues of debatable men from history should come down, this is your boy, the original gangster. The statue of him at Oriel College is one that's been in the news a lot. Many people want it down. You might not know much about him, and nor do I. What do we do about history, this tiny topic that we're going to sort out today? My panel, by the end of the show, must vote, one way or the other, evil or genius. My panel are Tanya Moore, my mate from comedy. How are you, Tanya?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, my love?
Good. What are you up to? Plug anything you like.
I've got lots of things happening, but I think it's safe to say, go on to BBC, go on to all these different channels and you'll find some of my work.
Oh, we'll be doing that later. Olga Koch joins us. She was great on our Karl Marx episode and has her own Radio 4 series called OK Computer.
Yes, and I also have a new podcast called Human Error on BBC Sounds.
And what's that about?
It's about technology and how people mess it up.
Oh, cool. And of course, Johnny Cochran's here, the Evil Genius regular and host of the How's Your Father podcast, which normally features dazzlingly handsome men talking about their experience of masculinity.
You were on there as well, weren't you?
How are you, Johnny?
I'm good, yeah, and I'm, doing my football podcasting as well, all Premier League, Arsenal mainly.
My flat, London, I actually am within the hearing distance of the ground of Arsenal. You can hear when the goals go in, so it's silent most of the time. It's lovely.
I hate you for that. I hate you for that.
Get a great afternoon's sleep when Arsenal are at home.
Hey, stop it.
Oh my god, I just did football bands. Can you tell all the men I know? They're amazing. I feel so powerful. I'm going to fit all my face masks when I get in. Now, in her first for Evil Genius, today's subject, Cecil Rhodes, had a country named after him. That is badass. Rhodesia, which is now, of course, Zambia, Zimbabwe. What would you like a country named after you to be called, Johnny? I mean, at least two of you are going to have problems here. We've got Johnny Cochran and Olga Koch. You're going to probably have to be quite creative.
I mean, it would be Cochran, wouldn't it? It's got to be Cochran. And, if you...
Sounds like a great nightclub.
The Emperor of Cochland as well would be Chief Cock. Like, it wouldn't be King or anything. You'd have to arise to the level of Chief Cock.
The cockerel.
Yeah, the cockerel would be the patron saint animal, that would be and there'd just be dildos everywhere, pretty much, it's a lot of cock-based humour.
At least if
Can I be the president of this country? I want all the props on it.
President Tate. What if you had a country named after you?
I'm going back and forth. I don't want it to be more anything. I'm thinking it's going to be something to do with being bald everywhere.
Baldesia. I mean, unfortunately, we've got two people vying for the cock homelands here, so you could be like the Republic of Cock next door.
Or United States of Cock.
Yeah, I like that.
But also, it's pronounced a little bit differently, so it depends on where you're going.
Well, another great name for a nightclub, the United States of Cock. Great. Now, Cecil Rhodes, whether you've heard of him or not, we're going to centre around the statues debate. It's massive, and the other reason it's really, really important for Evil Genius is because he embodies Evil Genius. He goes to the heart of what the series is all about. This is why we keep getting people tweeting us that they want Evil Genius to come to their town and set up a debate about their local hero or anti-hero to decide if his, and it is usually his, statue should be pulled down. In Bristol, the argument has been about the statue of the slave trader Edward Colston. How are you enjoying it at the bottom of the It went into the harbour. I think it's been pulled out again now. I like to think that as it came out, a seagull shat in his face. Anyway, Cecil, he was a brilliant entrepreneur, businessman and politician. He was born in 1853, the son of a vicar in Bishop Stortford, Hertfordshire, one of 9 children. All his brothers went to posh school, but he went to grammar school.
Marcel
For me already, I don't want to psychoanalyse early doors, but when there's 9 siblings and all of the brothers are going to Winchesters and Eton and you sort of do the 11 plus, there's a chip. There's a McCain's factory going on your shoulders early door. Yeah. Did you all go to the same schools as your siblings? Anyone have different educational experience to their siblings? It's common in 11 plus.
I went to the same one. We all went through the same school system. But I kind of missed it. I grew up very near to Bishop Stortford, and I know people who went to school in Bishop Stortford, and they're all dickheads. So I can confirm, plot your graph there.
Yeah, massive colonialists as well.
Yeah, exactly, if they got the chance.
He first visited Africa at the age of 17. He was given some money by one of his aunts for a gap year experience. How much do you reckon it was, Olga? I worked it out in today's money. 250 Gs. He was given 250 grand to play with. I mean, come on, my dad drove me to the ferry because the Eurostar was too expensive. Oh, wait a minute, it hadn't been built yet, I'm old. According to one of his biographers, his letters home reveal a young man of charm and enthusiasm. He grew cotton in Natal, but then moved into diamond mining and founded De Beers. I mean, let that just sit there for a second, as the conspiracy theorists say. He actually founded De Beers. he got De Beers in. As a company that came to control 90% of the world's diamond production, here's a little fact. Diamonds aren't expensive. Bet you didn't know that. There's still plenty of diamonds. There's loads of them. Do you know why they're expensive? Because Cecil and De Beers realised if you don't release too many, the price stays high. Which explains why my ticket sales aren't expensive, because I can't stop writing stand-up shows. So that's the truth, isn't it? Do one. No, it's the truth. Do one show every 10 years. Yeah, doing it all wrong. So they came to control 90% of the world's diamond production. They steal these small collection of companies to control diamond production. He also made a fortune in gold. Before the age of 30, he was a millionaire. In the 1800s. My God. His friend W.T. Stead described him as one of the first of the new dynasty of money kings, which has been evolved in these days as the real rulers of the modern world. That is true. Anyone get close to making their first million before 30? Well, I'm way past 30, so I'm definitely say no. It's crazy.
Yeah, nothing like that, to be fair. I was...
Well, my first £30, but... Job seeker's allowance was 30 a week.
Yeah.
Smash that. What do you think of people that achieve a lot in young age, Olga? Do they annoy you, or do you find it admirable? I try to find it admirable, but particularly I hate it.
I just turned 29, so I've got 1 year. Let's do this. I don't care which Forbes 30 under 30. It could be 30 under 30 train wrecks, but I'm getting on it.
That technology podcast better go through the roof. In 1889, Cecil Rhodes chartered the British South Africa Company, BSAC, in London, which was licensed by the Crown to seize control of territory, Matabele land, and further his mining interests, gold being the chief attraction in the region. When the local population rebelled, Rhodes used the BSAC's own police force to crush them. In 1895, Rhodes consolidated the land and named it Rhodesia. I mean, I know we're all going to have issues, but just keeping an open mind and playing Evil Genius properly, that is badass. Is it not? Making millions before 30 in the 19th century and getting a country named after you.
Yeah, it's sick if you're playing a computer game.
Yeah.
You've done really well, you've completed it, but yeah, there is a human cost. I'm sure we're going to dig into
all the Terrys and Darrens going, this is why we never should have got rid of the 11 plus. Hey, bastard, went to grammar school, look at that, got his own country and a diamond. The 11 plus. He became Prime Minister of Cape Colony in 1890, which was a British colony. In 1895, he backed a disastrous raid into the neighbouring Afrikaner Republic of Transvaal, which added to the tensions that led 4 years later to the Anglo-Boer War. Following a public outcry, Rhodes was forced to resign as Prime Minister of the Cape Colony and step down from his place as the Director of the British South Africa Company. He never married, and we can speculate on why he may never have married, but in his first draft of his will, he left quite a lot of money to his handsome young male companion, who lived in his small cottage next to the mine with him. Gee, I wonder if they dressed up as Agamemnon and Achilles and covered themselves in linseed oil. Just speculation. Probably not. Read ancient Greek to me. And here's where we get to the first of our envelopes. So how Evil Genius works, if you're new, because you're a Cecil Rhodes fan and this is the first episode you've ever listened to, we have surprising facts that steer the debate and try and confuse. I'm the evil one. I try to confuse and confound my guests and make it uncomfortable for them with these facts inside the envelope. So if you'd like to start mining into envelope 1, I have envelope 1. Mine inside and then annex the information within it for your own.
Alright, and it reads, a white supremacist who embodied Britain's imperialist policy. No way.
Yeah, so not all good. At 24, Rhodes had already decided to dedicate his life to the British Empire. At 24, I can remember what I did at 24 because I spent it in casualty my 24th birthday because I poured Sambuca into my buttocks, lit them, and my friend drank it out. And we went in the ambulance
You're
together.
joking.
Yes, I am, but it's a very good image. That actually happened when I was 22. We go to hospital because I'm a legend. I knew how to safely do an aid Sambuca.
What's up?
Essex. Oh, that bit was. So, you got involved. Why did you get involved in the British Empire so heavily? I think that object a worthy one because the British Empire stands for the protection of all the inhabitants of a country in life, liberty, property, fair play, and happiness. And it is the greatest platform the world has ever seen for these purposes and for human enjoyment, as long as you're writing English. He didn't say the last bit, but I thought I should add it. Anyone else do anything decent at 24? I mean, this guy went out to Africa and started trying to create a nation. We have to hold that in our head without getting rolling around in our tzatziki and having a lefty spasm attack too early.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive stuff. What were you doing at 24?
Well, I think, you know, we kind of have this metaphorical, you know, pilgrimage like Rhodes did at 24, because we go on lads' holidays for British people. Not everyone does it, but a lot of people do. And similarly, we get on the beers and, you know, kind of have it large by taking over a country and leaving the locals completely destitute at the end of it. But somehow there's money made out of all of this activity. You know, but,
I'm so glad I grew out of that.
The thing is, you know, it's similarly to kind of Rudyard Kipling. Rhodes saw this as some kind of white man's burden. He thought the British people were the best people in the world, and it was their duty to civilise the world, you know. And Russell Gaines just talks about doing a sambuca at his arsehole. So, you know,
just to be clear, don't let it funnel past the cheek. As I say this morning, just want you to cheeks as like a luge.
A luge.
I'm very sure you were
24, I was kind of like Rhodes. I was infiltrating white spaces and teaching kids hip-hop. Dance.
You're like a reverse Rhodes.
I was going to Hartford.
I'm going to annex, sorry.
Teaching hip-hop and teaching kids how to be a little less white.
Great. Is there ever been an empire worth dedicating your life to? Any empire in history to go back?
The one in Star Wars, I guess? I'm not really sure. But I think the, like, 24-year-olds back then, I guess if you had a rich aunt and you were a fucking asshole, you start a country, and now you start a startup or a podcast.
That like me, I'm a chav who started a podcast. Oh, God. We saw the British Empire as an enlightened mission and the British people as a superior race, improving the world with its influence. 4 points for Johnny, already getting that in advance. I was waiting, there are no points. Exactly. We are the finest race in the world. Interesting to see British as a race. There is no evidence at all for that. We are the finest race in the world, and that the more of the world we inhabit, the better it is for the human race. Just fancy those parts that are at present inhabited by the most despicable specimens of human beings. What an alteration they would be if they were brought under Anglo-Saxon influence. What a dream!
It sounds like you've got a small willy, if I'm honest.
Africa is still lying ready for us, and it is our duty to take it.
Not our duty?
What do you think of that? Come on, Tanya, I mean, that's incredible. If you wrote that as a character and made up, you'd be, oh, you lefty idiot. Look, simplistic and reductive. No one actually spoke like that. You do realise he actually said that. He must have believed it on one level.
Of course he did. He went there and claimed a country that wasn't even for him.
Do you think any of them said this and didn't believe it, but knew that that was the rhetoric to do what they want?
There was definitely yes men around him, for sure. Everyone with power has yes men around him. I mean, I don't think anyone in the strip likes him.
Don't worry, I'm surrounded by no people.
But no, really think about it. A lot of people in power, they have so many yes men around them. There must have been one person who was like sneaking black people out at the back of wherever it was, one by one.
I mean, he talked a lot on the surface about how he was going to bring universal franchise, and that it was for, I read an interesting thing, that it was for all civilized people, regardless of colour, once they were civilized. And yet we find other writings where he's quite specific. He says Anglo-Saxon and talks about whiteness. So maybe he was a bit more canny than we realise. Maybe he didn't actually believe some of this stuff. He could be one of these people that said whatever he needed to say to get what he wanted, rather than held a belief no matter how misplaced.
I do think that he had, you know, like a lot of people at the time, a belief that white people were superior, and this still plays out today with, you know, lots of modern white supremacists. They believe that the reason why white men went around colonialising different lands and setting up these colonies was because they were somehow better. And again, when I talk about white man's burden, this idea that because they were the better species, or was a better race of people, it was their duty to help these savages along their path of civilization. Of course, we know that to be absolute nonsense. But the fact is this guy, you know, as we know, went on to he was involved in politics, and would dress his hateful speech up in different ways depending on what way the wind was blowing. But he's without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, a vile racist.
Do you think his brothers and sisters thought the same way, or do you think they were different?
Well, he's older. He went out there initially because his older brother was already out there.
Same way.
Enjoying the spoils. In fact, he got off his head and died in a cabin fire, as I understand it, drunk off his tits one day. But the brother was out there already.
I'm sorry, a fire drunk? Was there some movement?
Well, they found
the asshole.
I really didn't use the luge technique. That's all they found.
One and all that were found. Nothing else was found. That and the pursed lips of his best friend.
The pursed lips.
Profit appears to have been a bigger motive. This is my belief, that profit was a bigger motive than his empire building duties. I do agree, Johnny, that was the attitude of the time. Let's turn the map pink, we're a superior race. I'm not convinced the guy believed that. I think he thought, who gives a shit what colour we are? We've got all the chips on the board. Let's take what we can. The opportunism argument I find more compelling. So,
I guess if you're running a business, the most annoying thing is getting permits from the government. But when you are the government, everything's ready to go.
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be worse if he didn't believe that and still did it anyway? Because there's lots of evidence that when he went there as this bright-eyed 17-year-old and in his 20s, he was talking a lot about universal franchise and everyone could be equal, and he fought for rights for a lot of the workers that were working on the mines at that time, and then stole workers from other mines to work on his mine. So part of me is like, isn't it another level of evil to go, actually, I don't believe that, but I don't give a shit as long as De Beers is making all of the dollar. He could be that.
I'd say that is another level. You're right, definitely.
So anyway, when they destroyed the Matabele Nation, Rhodes told his shareholders that the value of their investment had increased by 2,000%, but he was careful to dress it up as a patriotic act of duty and virtue. His dream, he had this big dream, which
We've lost Olga.
Oh no. Can we get Olga back to the coffee shop?
Yeah.
His dream was to draw a red line from Cairo to Cape Town, building a railway across the entire continent of Africa and creating a single African nation. And before you all write in there, we gave Africa the railways. Remember why the railways were built? To convey stolen diamonds back and forth. Only reason why. His fantasy of Anglo-Saxon dominance included bringing America back into the imperial fold. This wasn't like a bit of rhetoric. He had two big ambitions. I mean, mine was when I started imagining if I could go on holiday to the Maldives one day. Imagine if I achieved that in my life. I thought this guy wanted to bring America back to the UK. Unbelievable. He financed the conquest of Rhodesia with the profits he'd extracted from black labourers in his South African gold and diamond mines. After seizing land from Africans, Rhodes' British South Africa company forced them to work as indentured labourers. As one early biographer put it, Rhodes used blacks ruthlessly, giving them wages that made them little better than slaves. Rhodes variously referred to the native population as lazy, children, and barbaric, and viewed them solely as the engine of labour. He was responsible for stealing, get ready for this, 1 million square miles of South African land. 1 million square miles. Just to... Johnny, would you like to translate that to football pitches?
It's a lot, I see, yeah, mate.
Arsenal, that's too soon. The South African novelist Olive Schreiner, who knew Rhodes, astutely observed, "We fight Rhodes because he means so much of oppression, injustice, and moral degradation to South Africa. But if he passed away tomorrow, there still remains the terrible fact that something in our society has formed a matrix which has fed and nourished and built up such a man. How much you blame the man and how much you blame the system is something we have to weigh up today. Is that just to get out, you think? Like you go, oh, sorry, you know, the
I don't
system.
think you'll ever get out, because you have to follow the system. You can't get a new system.
There were people back in those days that, you know, this is the same thing when you talk about the slave trade, and it's like, yeah, well, that's just what was going on right there, you know, it's going on. No, there were people who said, no, this is disgusting, and they were abolitionists, and they fought against it. But it was a movement, okay? There were people, it's not just one guy, there were loads of people who were trying to get rid of it. But the fact is that one of the reasons why it's so important to talk about this stuff now is because it still has influence over our lives to this day.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to try and find some nuance from envelope 1, but let's burn it with the Sambuca in the corner and move on to envelope number 2.
A trailblazer of apartheid.
Yeah, it's not getting better, is it?
It's really just not.
It is like one of those
Why have you decided to talk about this guy?
Yeah. It's because, unbelievably, the statue is still up. At the time of recording this, the inquiry has just concluded. The statue should remain. So far from this being a dead debate with no nuance and no interest, if you call yourself someone who's against roast beef, you shouldn't have a statue. You're currently losing that debate. He is up there, revered, in stone at the entrance to Oriel College, and people are like, well, it's a way of learning. It's like, not really. I don't look at statue and learn. Statue is a way of venerating, valorising.
It's about a guy who went to Africa, took over something, and then tried to bring America back. Like, how I've got this image of him putting America in his bag and then just putting it in the corner.
Would you like to eat from duty free on the way out?
I love America. Santa Claus, don't leave it there.
I'll have Texas, please. But it is that I do find that argument slight. I mean, I'm not trying to be like wishy-washy or anything, but I find it perplexing. Like, if we pull down the statues, we'll have no way of remembering history. It's like, well, plenty of people don't. There's no statue of Henry VIII in Southend, but we learn about it well enough. We remember Henry VIII statues.
Hitler's got many statues knocking about.
But this is it. Someone is revered when they're a statue. Yeah. You wouldn't go stick a statue of Ted Bundy up and go, it's important to remember serial killers are dangerous. This statue does not revere Ted Bundy.
And if I start petitioning for a statue of R. Kelly, I'm going to be cancelled.
My issue with the statue thing, first of all, I'm against all of these statues and they need to come down.
What about statues? Statues are good people, though.
No, of course, yeah, but for exactly the same reasons of what you said, the fact is, and there are some that tread the line. We talk about Churchill, for instance, and, he was a racist as well, but the difference is I understand why Churchill statue would be there. The fact is...
Another episode you definitely have to listen to.
You should definitely, listen to that one, but... in general, I understand why that was there. The fact is, when you talk about these people who are involved in the slave trade, or you talk about Cecil Rhodes, he is responsible for... He's a terrorist. That is what these people are. They are terrorists. They terrorise a generation, more than a generation of people, and the scars of their legacy still live today. Now, of course, we could learn about it if we went to a museum or we read some books. When you have a statue standing there in full veneration to be memorialised for all their work, you are revering that person, all their warts and all, and I think it's completely disgusting.
Do you not think, though, the fact, Olga, that it's this statue, if you Google it, no one notices it. I would have to point it out to you. It's just stuck there and you walk past it. Is it really being venerated if it's just an invisible statue that no one actually looks at? And it's a shit statue as well.
Take it down! All the people who are arguing about how it should be kept up probably don't know anything about it.
Would you ever want to be made into a statue? I mean, I'm not just showing off here. I have got a bus with Russell Craig written on it in Southend. That's God's honest truth.
Oh, really? Where?
The local buses. They've all got names of people that have lived there. A door opens.
A lot of
I think in Essex,
you
become a local bus. It's not
you can enter me in Southend.
There's a lot of seagulls turning up and shitting on that, I am no doubt.
So Anthony Gormley's had a wonderful idea about turning the statue around so that they face the wall or face away from us, so they're facing. Would that be a powerful statement, or do you think to tear them down? Because that would encourage conversation then.
Do you want to create debate about this guy, though, or do you want to forget him?
For all the reasons... Well, Johnny makes an interesting point. We do need to continue to talk about these people, lest we repeat some of the mistakes.
Yeah.
I think I guess there is a line between like what is up for debate or what is necessary to remember, because a lot of the time I think there is this sort of we say something is up for debate when in reality it's like people's humanity we're debating, and I really I think the word debate is misused a lot. But take him down, he's an asshole.
Yeah, retain and explain. That's the government. That's the current government policy. Retain and explain.
But
that's also my agent's explanation why I still get work. I have to say that Oxford has been the centre of this campaign. That's what Oriel College is. He was a student there and he left £100,000 in his will a long time ago. The campaign is called Rhodes Must Fall. It began in South Africa where it was successful. The campaign was not only objecting to honouring Rhodes' legacy, but the continuation of his legacy today. Oriole have declined to remove the statue, and that was in May 2021, due to costs and complex planning processes. I tell you, me and my cousin Terry, who's a plasterer, it would not take any complex planning to at least have the head off the fucker. Oh, that was complex, wasn't it, Terry? River? I just remember Terry's racism.
Leave it up!
Okay, guys, let's get back into talking about apartheid. So, as a Prime Minister of Cape Colony, Rhodes introduced legislation that laid the groundwork for apartheid. He passed 2 laws that caused large numbers of Africans to be struck off the electoral roll. One was the Glenn Grey Act, which limited the amount of land Africans could hold. The other tripled the property qualification for the vote, which is crafty, because it means you can vote. It doesn't matter what colour you are, as long as you own a house this side. Guess who didn't own any of the houses that size? Many Africans had insufficient property to qualify and would now find it almost impossible to get back on the list because of the legal limit on the amount of land they could hold. So even if you did acquire wealth, you couldn't buy land with it. In other words, it was a trick. Africans were no longer allowed to sell land without the permission of the governor, nor were they allowed to divide or sublet the land or give it as inheritance to more than one heir. The Glenn Grey Act was designed to ensure a system of labour which would feed